Stu Taylor, I'm here with David Reed, Senior Energy Advisor, Corporate Strategic Planning Department of Exxon Mobil Corporation, keynote speaker at the luncheon, and couldn't get any better information than we can get from Exxon Mobil. A lot of public perceptions, a lot of truths, a lot of dispelling of the myths. Who's involved in manipulating the oil prices, if indeed they're manipulated, the speculators, where is it done? And this is a multifaceted question, David. A lot of unjustified criticism, I believe, at Exxon Mobil, who is doing a lot to serve our energy needs and responding to what I think is a very fair profit. Throwing a lot at you all at once.
Okay, and we talked some about this at the conference today, and if you look at profitability and you pick, say, 30 industries across the world, what you'll find is that our industry, in terms of profitability, ranks about in the middle of that. And at the same time, we've got to make investments that have much longer periods than almost any other industry, where you're talking 20, 30 years to get a reasonable payback and look at the economics of an oil, gas, or other type of energy project. So we face a lot of challenges too.
News this past week, statistics, everybody has a different slant. Social Security may be running out in 2032. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you about that. Medicare in 2050. What about the depletion of our oil resources? Where are we in the short, medium, and long term?
Stu, when you look out to 2040, and what I do want to mention is we've talked a lot about the outlook that we just released, which for the first time, this global energy outlook goes out to 2040 for us. And what we're seeing on the oil side, if we look at demand, we expect demand for oil to be up to about 112 million barrels a day by that time. That's about a 25% increase from today. Now, in 2040, we still expect the majority of that to be met by conventional crude production, but more and more other sources will come into play. And in fact, conventional crude production may even decline slightly by 2040, but other sources will far more than offset that. The biggest one being production from deep water. We expect that to double by 2040 and reach about 14 million barrels a day. At the same time, we're seeing an increase in what we call tight oil that's produced from shale or very dense rock, and that we've known about. Just recently it's become economic because of technology advances that are made, and this is one of the
fracking and horizontal drilling.
Yeah.
But the intensive expense, is it enough to offset the profitability that there is, and relate that to the degree of difficulty it is to procure that?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And if you look at the U.S., oil production has actually turned around and is beginning to climb again. That's because of the production of this tight oil from the dense rock. The other phenomenal thing that's happening in the U.S. is just this tremendous increase in the production of what we call unconventional gas. Most of this increase is in shale gas. And this is a tremendous opportunity for the U.S., where we estimate that the U.S. has 100 years or more of natural gas resources at current consumption. And at the same time, not only is this feeding energy, there's just a lot of opportunity for new jobs here. A recent study by PricewaterhouseCoopers has indicated that over 1 million new jobs could be created in the U.S. by 2025 to produce this gas, to produce the equipment that's needed to produce this gas, and to feed jobs in other industries that become very competitive because of this competitive energy source that the U.S. has in terms of natural gas. We're seeing that in steel, we're seeing that in chemicals that feed into plastics, that feed into other manufacturing.
We're seeing those job opportunities in North Dakota, Montana up there. The average $80,000 a year salary, unlimited potential growth. But, and this certainly comes into all the major oil companies, the constraints, the regulation, the compliance issues, the kind of things that stunt growth and incentives. It plays into it. What's Exxon Mobil's take on that, or you as a spokesperson for them, in terms of fighting these issues, the pipeline, drilling in Amcan, off the coast. We've got unlimited potential that we're not fulfilling enough to become energy independent.
Absolutely, and we are very optimistic. We're very optimistic that through continued dialogue, we'll be able to work with the government and we'll be able to produce this tremendous resource that the U.S. has. These are concerns that communities raise that are reasonable, and we need to have discussions and we need to work with them to make sure the proper procedures are taken to get well casing in place, to have the right water management. And a lot of that can happen through local discussions, and it is happening right now. And so we're optimistic that these items will be addressed and we'll be able to produce this gas. And I'll come back to the jobs, because it even surprised me when we looked at all the new jobs that were created in the last year, 9% of those were in the oil and gas business. So it has tremendous prospects for helping the U.S. economy become strong, and with that helps the global economy.
The dark side, mostly played upon by the media. We're all privy to it. Some accept it, some don't. You can go back to Chernobyl, the scare at 3 Mile Island, the BP oil disaster in the Gulf. How does Exxon Mobil operate in what is a socially conscious way in order to, number one, and at times they are at odds, because if you're moving ahead, and I believe man takes precedent over land, we control land, the environment should control us. How does Exxon Mobil and other large companies balance that?
And it's something that we get focused every day, that at our company we say safety's number one, but we really mean it. And when you work there, I worked there over 30 years, this is something you see day in, day out, that if anybody sees a safety issue, if anybody sees a potential environmental issue, they know that they can stop what's going on until we talk about it and understand how to address that safely in an environmentally acceptable manner.
And finally, how are you enjoying the conference? You can hear a lot of buzz as I'm interviewing you here today. This first HiAlpha Energy Conference put on by RB Milestone. Your impressions?
I really appreciate the invitation to come here and have a discussion with so many entrepreneurs, investors, so many people involved in the same type of business that I've been involved in for a long time. I mentioned in my talk that the world's energy demand will increase about 30% by 2040 versus 2010. That's a tremendous challenge for the world's industry, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. It'll take a lot of innovative thinkers, enormous amount of investment, and many, many good engineers. At Exxon Mobil, we're very optimistic we can meet that challenge.
All right, and you're entitled to the profit, if I may have a biased opinion here.
I appreciate that. I assure you, we work very hard for that.